Hello, everyone, and welcome to Diggen's Point podcast. This is Fort.
And Glorf.
And the Doug.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Today, we're going to be starting off with if we were cast in a movie based off of a Sanderson book, which villain would you want to play? I gave this a little bit of thought, not a whole lot, but enough, and I decided I would want to be Blue Fingers from Warbreaker.
Blue
Oh,
fingers.
He's just a very side character that you don't notice, but he's very smart. He knows how to exactly manipulate a situation to what he wants, and he would have gotten away with it. He would have gotten away with it if it weren't for Siri, for the
And
meddling
I would have
kids.
gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling royals.
Exactly. So he's just really smart and is like, he's the last minute, like, gotcha. And it's like,
he's the twist villain.
exactly. I think he would be. I could
Well,
be good Blue Fingers.
when we think Warbreaker, we think more like Denth and Tonk
Tonk
Fa.
Fa.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Blue Fingers is. Oh, that's a good idea. What about you, the Doug?
So the Doug gave this some thought. And first off, okay, here's the thing, is that Rathan, like, he's probably my favorite character in Elantris. I'm just gonna go out there, and he's one of those characters in the entirety of the Cosmere that I really relate to. Like, I get him, and I like. I It's questionable whether or not he's a bad guy or not. If he's a villain, I don't. He might be an antagonist, but not necessarily the villain per se, right? So
I
Rathan's
agree
up
with
there,
that.
but if we say he's not really the villain, then that kind of opens up a little bit more. And then I got thinking about it, and I'm all like, okay, well, if I had to be a villain, who do I want to be? And so my first thought was, oh, well, I'd be Moash, then I could unalive myself early on. But that doesn't work. And I guess part of this is if we were cast in a Cosmere movie. So if we were cast in a Cosmere movie, I think I would play a very convincing Wraithen. I mean, and I think I look pretty dang good in all red, armor. Okay, because like in D&D, my favorite class is Paladin, right? I just jive with Wraithen. But if I were to go somewhere else, if Wraithen were saying, "Oh, he's not really a villain, you can't do that," the Doug, thinking about it, it's a really hard question because like I don't want to be Sadius because I don't. First off, I don't have the physique for it. I'm far too beautiful. But I mean, it's just a really difficult one. Who would you want to be? And I think Lord Ruler. I think I'd be okay with that because he looks really spiffy, and I look really. I mean, and he. The nice thing about the Lord Ruler, if you had to play the Lord Ruler in a movie, is there's not a whole lot of things you have to do, right? I'm not all about the running and jumping and whatnot. If I was
There's like
like,
three lines of you'd have like three lines of dialogue.
Yeah, he doesn't have
exactly,
like much appearance. It's
I
like,
get to
oh, I'm going
show
to
up.
slap this guy and kill him, and then I'm going to be murdered.
Exactly, right? And you imagine the kind of paycheck you'd get for something like that. Although, okay, people in the comments, you tell me, we and the Glorf were talking about it one point, and we think that Benedict Cumberbatch would be the most awesome Lord Ruler ever, especially if you've seen him play Khan in Wrath of Khan. I think he pulled it off very convincingly. But
Yes.
Glorf, which villain would you be?
See, this is a tricky one because I feel like there's not a lack of female villains, but like you look at the percentage of male versus female villains in Sanderson books. So the ones we thought of, there's like Ela Sadius. Would Venli count as a villain to an extent? It's
Ooh,
like a Wraithen
I
situation where she's
I could
good
see it.
and
I mean,
bad.
she also descended harder as it went on.
Yeah. And then she, by
Oh,
the
I'm
end
thinking
of
of
Rhythm
I'm
of
thinking of
War,
Eshonai. I'm thinking of Eshonai.
oh, I was gonna say, yeah, Eshonai was almost like stupid void spend mind control.
Yeah.
No, but
yeah.
Venli is very power hungry and not good. And then by the end of Rhythm of War, she's on track to redeem herself. I appreciate the fact Sanderson didn't give her an immediate redemption arc because she was pretty bad. You look at the end of Words of Radiance, and she was pretty bad. Um, Finley, Shannon Ariel, I don't feel young enough or like confident enough to be Shan. I don't think. I
And
guess we
if you
don't
want
know
to
how
go
old.
really big, evil, bad guys, technically Bovidin, I believe, is female.
Who?
Autonomy.
Autonomy.
Oh, autonomy. Oh, do you know what a fun one would be?
Hmm.
The sorceress from Tress.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I can see
Right.
that.
That would be a fun one. Yeah, no, I could see. I think the sorceress would be a fun one. Forgotten about her.
Oh, the sorceress. She's so much fun.
Yeah, I like the sorceress. I just don't. If I wasn't the sorceress, I'd actually probably choose ELA next. ELA would probably be my next choice. I might be a little too tall for ELA. Isn't she supposed to be like super short?
All
I
of
don't think
Luffy are
so.
really tall.
Yeah. Okay, fun fact I found out the other day. All Rosharans, so like so I'm fairly tall for a dude, okay? I stand at like 6'0", 6'1", 6'3" if any of the ladies are asking. But you should have seen the eye roll Glorf just gave me. But but I found out that apparently Shuan is only slightly shorter than me because since Roshar has slower gravity, the people grow taller because there's less pushing down on them. And so as a result, and Glorf, you're a resident biology expert, so you tell us if this would make sense. But so like Kaladin stands at like 7 feet tall.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's almost more of a physics thing than a biology thing.
Yeah.
But there are lots of different factors. You look at people, native Peruvians tend to be a little bit shorter, especially those that live in the mountains, because of oxygen level. Like, yeah, physical things like that definitely affect height.
Yeah. So Roshar has a higher oxygen content and lower gravity, so the people there grow taller. And so Kaladin's like 7 foot tall. The point is, if you needed to put together a basketball team, if they decide to end the War of the Shards, like Space Jam style with a basketball game, you want the Rosharans on your team.
It'd probably be Windrunners versus Skybreakers because they can both fly.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Now I want hey Brandon, if you ever listen to this, we definitely need in the future of the Cosmere some sort of they can take down what is it that Wayne invents?
Oh
Snotball?
yeah,
No,
news
what
ball
is it?
something.
I
Snot
can't
Noseball.
remember what
Yes.
nose
Noseball.
ball. Oh, okay, yeah.
nose
Yeah,
ball.
in the future, we want the future of the Cosmere to include at some point nose interstellar noseball leagues, and we have mistings and windrunners and everybody jumping all over the place and trying to win games for the fate of the Cosmere.
Yes,
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
yeah, really. Sweet. Now, okay, but it's definitely something we need to discuss sometime. Which sports would people be best at, and who would we want on our fantasy Cosmere football league? So,
Okay.
we can do a March Madness bracket
Ooh, yeah.
of various Cosmere characters and how well they do at noseball, which we still don't know the rules for.
When I was in college one year for March Madness, my roommates put together, they made their own bracket, but they actually like different teams. They gave different teams character names from their favorite TV show. I think it was Outlander. And like by the end of the season, instead of caring about which basketball team, they basically like which character won. So maybe we'll do something like that. Is an idea.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
All right. Any more villains? Or are we ready to move on to Sanderson news for it?
I think we're good. Everyone's been through. Let us know in the comments who you think you would be. For the weekly update, there wasn't too much this week. 33% on Stormlight 5 3.0. They don't
Woohoo!
have any percentages for the Skyward Legacy, but the Well of Ascension Hero of Ages leather bounds are back in stock, so you can go and buy those as long as supplies last. And then the Words of Radiance leatherbound Kickstarter starts on March 5th. So if you want to start backing that and get your cool little Radiant sprint in addition to that, another cool swag with the backer kit. So that starts is March 5th.
Cool. Anyway, yeah, that isn't a lot, but yeah, I've considered getting the leather bounds. Maybe someday when I'm like old with a ton of disposable income, I'll collect them all, but for now, I'll stick with the ones we have. I like the paperback because I don't feel as bad loaning them. But the leather bound ones are pretty just from the pictures.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's the thing I've noticed for a lot of people is that they really love a book and they get it in paperback so they can read it, and then they get a leatherback version so they can have it look nice on their shelves because, it just you feel like you get one of those really nice copies of the book and you're like, I don't want to read this. In fact, so like I was looking up something the other day in Tress, okay? And it's the first time we've actually read through Tress because by the time Tress came, especially with the shipping delays and whatnot, we'd read it all digital and I'd listened to it like a good foreign man. And so we uh we haven't ever opened it. So I opened it up and I started looking for something, and it just felt like I was destroying a work of art because it was so pretty. I was like, it's so beautiful, and look at the paintings and the color, and and you just feel like, but that's why I'm like, I need to get me a paperback, and then that way, if it falls apart, I don't feel like I'm destroying something priceless.
You know,
So
I would never loan out
yeah,
a copy of Tress. Couldn't, it's too pretty. I'd have to buy a paperback to share it. I want to start out, I have a neighborhood book club I keep wanting to restart, and I want Tress to be the book. But if that's the case, I have to get a paperback version because someone's going to say, do you have a copy I can borrow? And I would have to say, no, I'm not taking my pretty version. We waited so long to get. Remember the delay on that? That was insane.
That was ridiculous. They ended up figuring it out by the end, though. So,
Yeah, no, but you could tell it was stressful for them. Like every weekly update, it's like we're working on it.
yeah, that is true.
So, what's up next,
Well,
Sport?
are we ready for a book club?
Yes.
woo.
So,
So oh, go ahead, Gore.
oh, I was gonna say, so over the last 2 weeks, so the chapters we're gonna be covering is chapter 37 Sides through chapter 57 Wander Sail. And I think Doug, you were gonna lead us off with a little bit of a synopsis.
Yeah, so this chapter is crazy, and like we had really great starting and ending points. So the last thing that happens is that Yasna turns a couple of people into fire. She's all like, they want to be like, we're robbers, and she's all like, but you could be fire. And Kaladin is all like, hey, I just didn't die in the high storm. So gonna keep it short because there's so much to discuss. But here's what happens with Shalon. She's all like, "Oh, I have to leave," and Capsule, I haven't figured out how the Soulcaster works, and oh, Capsule wants to marry me, and I don't know how I feel about this, and I'm lying, and I have to leave. And she runs into her room, and then suddenly she soulcasts a bunch of stuff into blood, and she's like, "Oh no, it looks like blood. Oh no, they're gonna find out I soulcast. I know, I have a great idea. I'll jab a giant jagged piece of pottery into my arm. That'll cover it up." And then they're all like, "Oh no, you tried killing yourself." She's like, I know, yeah, oh, I'm such a bad, it's so sad." And then Capsule is all like, "Oh hey, eat the jam, shove it, eat the jam." And then she's like, "Why?" And then he's like, "It's poison." And it turns out it's all poison. And then she's all like, "Oh no, I'm dying from the poison." And Yasmin's all like, "I'm gonna soul cast your blood so you don't be poisoned." And then she's like, "You can't soul cast because I stole your soul caster." And she's like, "Oh." And then she soul
To
casts him.
clarify, the bread is the poisoned one. The
Sorry.
jam has the antidote because Yasna doesn't eat jam. So if
Yeah.
Yasna ate the bread, she'd be poisoned.
Yeah. And so that's what. And so then Shalon Yasna finds all like Shalon's in the she's in a private room, and Yasna comes in and she's all like, "Yo, dumb, you tried to steal the soul caster. That's dumb. Like you could have just said like, yo, Yasna, my family has some problems. Can you help?" And I've been all like, "Yes, I can help you," but instead you'd be dumb, girl. So like, oh, okay, but that's the boring part. Okay, here's the other thing that happens. Dalinor's all like, I'm gonna abdicate. And Adelin's all like, "Listen, I told you were crazy, but I don't think you should abandon and leave the house." And he's all like, "Listen, you said I was crazy. I can't be in charge if I'm crazy." And Adelin's all like, "No, but I really don't want to be in charge. You should be in charge." And then Renard's all like, "I have an idea because I'm a genius. Why don't we just find out if the visions are real?" And they're both all like, "Oh, Renard is a genius." And so they're like, "Well, okay, so how do we figure that out?" And then he's all like, "I know who we can have help us, Navani." And Dalinor's all like, "I have so much love, but I must cage it in my heart." And the rest of them are like, and they're like, "This is a great idea." And then Navani sends the other two kids away, just like I do, when I'm on smoochy time. I'm all like, "Kids, why don't you go watch a Bluey?" and then get my smooch on. But then and Vani's all like, "Hey, Dalinar, look, we're alone. Isn't it scandalous?" And Dalinar's all like, "Codes before hoes, Navani." He's all like, "Be gone." Um, and so, and then Thaddeus is all like, "I figured out the investigation. Dalinar's not guilty." And Dalinar's all like, "What?" And Aelin's all like, "What?" And everybody else is like, "What?" And then he's all like, "Hey, Thaddeus, since you decided I didn't actively try and murder the king, that must mean we're bestest friends now. So how about we go on bridge runs together?" And Thaddeus is all like, "Yes, this is a good idea. Ha ha ha. I think it's wonderful idea. Why didn't I think of that before? You're so smart, Dalinar." Well, he's twirling his mustache. Okay. But that's all major boring crap too, because then Kaladin, he's all like, he comes out of the barracks and everybody's like, "You were supposed to be in there for like a long time," because it turns out Tef's been secretly feeding him Stormlight. And he's been munching that in his sleep, and so he's healing faster. And I guess that's technically a spoiler, but the Stormlight makes him heal faster if you didn't draw that connection before. Okay, we're gonna make it overt. But then he's all like, "It doesn't matter, there's nothing I can do. Everybody's gonna die anyway because there's no way I can save everybody, and we're not supposed to survive it. My life is miserable." And he's like, I'm giving up on the bridgemen and everybody else. And then he's all like, and then we have a flashback, and it's a flashback where there's this giant, where it's a flashback to chapter 1, or as I like to call it, prologue 3, because it's like the third prologue of the book with Sin, and he's all like, "Hey, let's go kill a Light Eyes." And he's all like, "Yeah, Light Eyes, dead Light Eyes." And everybody's like, "Woo, dead Light Eyes." And then a Shard Bear comes through and he's all like, "I'm killing everybody you love, Kaladin." And Kaladin's all like, "No." And then he's like, "We gotta go save High Marshal Amaram." And so they all run over to save High Marshal Amaram, and almost everybody else in his squad gets killed, but he like kills the Shard Bear, and it's all like, "Woo, dead Shard Bear." But then Amaram's all like, and then Kaladin's like, "I don't want the blade. I don't want the shards. They killed too many people, and it just doesn't make me happy. Give them to somebody else." And he's all like, and Amaram's all like, calls him in later. And he's all like, "Oh, are you sure you don't want the shards?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't." He's all like, "Well, if you're sure, you know what the best response to that is? I'm gonna kill everybody else who was there to save me, and then I'm gonna make you a slave, and then I'm gonna steal the shards from the shelf because I'm a giant d-bag." And one of my favorite parts is that when Kaladin yells at him as he's walking away, that you were supposed to be better than this, and it cuts Amaram so deep because he knows he should have been. But then Kaladin's all like glowing and sticking things together, and he's all like, "Wait, hold on. What's going on?" And so his solution is, "I'm gonna run out into the middle of the shattered plains to see what's going on." And he meets crazy dude, Wit. And Wit tells the first of his stories that has no purpose and no meaning, and don't insult him by saying it had some sort of meaning or purpose that he was trying to teach him, because it didn't. Okay, about Darethil and the Wandercell, and Kaladin realizes, crap. The reason I keep like assuming that I'm cursed or something is because that way I don't have to take responsibility and I don't have to be the failure. But if I take responsibility and accept that what I did was my fault, then I'm responsible for all those deaths. And I have to keep going. And then he comes back to Teft, and like it ends with him going to Teft and being all like, "Tell me what I can do. What do you know?" And that's like, I may have gotten way too into it and wasted too much time, but just there was a lot of awesome stuff.
Well, you also forgot the original flashback that they have where Rilla is dead, Rashon's son is dead,
Oh
and
yeah, that
Amaram
happened
comes to
here.
the town.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
let's talk about this
Amaram
D
comes to the
bag.
town
Oh yeah.
and he's like, "Hey, I need soldiers. Does anyone volunteer?" And there's like 3 or 4 people who are not important. And then Roshan's like, "Oh, read this list of names." And then Amaram looks up. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna take Tien of Lyran's son." And everyone gets
No.
pissed. And Rashon is just petty, like we talked about last time. He's like, "Haha, you killed my son. Now I'm taking your son from you." And Callan's like, "I volunteer as tribute." They're like, "We're still taking TN though. You cool with that?" He's like, "Sure."
Yeah, and
And
it's
instead of
kind.
being
That's how
supportive
he
and
ends up in the army.
well, and instead of being like, "Oh, what a good brother," Lyran's like, "I've lost both my sons," and pouts and runs away.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the part where he says like to Tian, he does it because he's like, wait, Tian's always been the one that's there for me and cheers me up, and now he's scared and afraid. I'll go help him. It's like, oh no. And remember though, this is an important lesson about revenge. When he sees Rashon get into the carriage, he doesn't seem any happier because even though he's taken Liren's son, it hasn't brought his son back. Oh, and then wait, do we also have the one with Reeler and the White Spines? Was that this week where
It
Reeler
might have
dies?
been. I
Yeah.
think so.
So there's a very important moment there that I won't spoil for now. But
Well,
in
no, because
that
we already
moment,
passed it. We already passed it. It just might have
it's
been.
about something in the future. But Lyran saves the world
Oh,
in that chapter. So, and I'll explain how later. So,
Oh, we also, you also didn't mention that Kaladin, after getting all mopey and everything, everyone's gonna die. He decides, you know what? There's one more thing we can do, and he starts using their time. They are put on like permanent chasm duty, and he uses that time to teach them how to fight.
oh yeah, it's awesome.
And who is it that picks it up the fastest? It's
Moash.
Moash and Scar.
Hmm.
And I feel like there was one more. Or was it just the two of them?
I think
Maybe
they picked
Pete?
it up the fastest. We also learned that Rock knows how to shoot an arrow.
Though
But
he
he's a
never
thief.
will, he will never fight. Oh, and we find out that Teft was a Teft,
Soldier.
run them through these drills. Yes, sir. And the Teft freezes. He's like, I just gave it away that I was he gives it away that he was a military man before.
Yeah, but we're not surprised by that at all.
Oh no, not at all.
No.
He was too grizzled and grumpy to not have been like a sergeant or something at some point.
Right. Oh,
That,
yeah, that
and
was the reading for these past 2 weeks.
it was action packed, man.
It both was and wasn't all at the same time.
Yeah.
But it was one of those, it was like, so we record on Thursdays, okay, and it was Tuesday when I was, oh my goodness, I forgot I need to finish this week's reading before we record instead of having toward the end of the week. And I expected to be cutting it close. I finished that day because I was farther in than I expected because just so drawn in. And then all of a sudden, I'm finishing the Wandersail chapter and I'm like, I'm out of reading to do this week. So
Yeah, I usually do my readings on like Tuesday or Wednesday right before we record. Sometimes I finish it on Thursday. So,
You guys have more patience than me. I start as soon as we finish here. I start Friday, set either Thursday night of the recording or Friday morning. Start listening to the next one because I'm like, yeah, I can get to it again.
nope, I stay on the week all the way to Sunday. So like next week I have all week to read it, and then the next week I cram it in 4 days. It's hard to do, not gonna lie.
I believe it. Reading Sanderson books is literally a full-time job. These books are like 40 to 50 hours long. I mean,
So
yeah,
technically you could finish it in a week if you actually treated it like a job.
yeah. If you listened to it at work, yeah.
That would be a good, that would be a
If
either
your
really
job
boring
allows it.
job or a really awesome job.
I do it at my job now. I've done it at multiple other jobs.
Really?
It just depends on what your job is and if they allow A, headphones, and B, if you have enough time and attention span to listen to it.
See, the only job I've ever had was I was a teacher for a little while.
That would
And
make
like
it harder.
you can't listen to audiobooks on that job.
Unless you let the kids listen to it too.
I mean, true, but I was teaching science and like I'm not sure all these magic systems really fit in.
Tress is perfect for that. Tress is perfect for science.
It
Oh,
is.
so
Because like the oceans aren't made of water, so I
Yeah,
can't
the
remember what it's called.
fluidization.
That's what it is, fluidization, yeah.
there's a great video on if anybody's interested in fluidization. There's a great video by Mark Rober that also stars Brandon Sanderson out on YouTube that explains the physics of it and whatnot. We're big fans of Mark Rober in our house because he's awesome. So yeah.
It's really cool. I like it.
Oh, I had a part that I wanted to discuss. I was thinking about it earlier about how I needed to discuss this part. Oh, um, so in the chapter, so the beginning of this week to care, I had this is the one where he's like, all right, I'm actually going to teach you guys how to fight. So the first thing I found interesting is remember when he picked up that spear and does that first kata and everyone kind of stares at him like that magic you did. And he's like, no, no, I'm never doing it again. And he goes to pick up a spear and realizes it doesn't have a head. And he's like, staff. We'll think of this as a staff. That's probably better. And it's interesting how he sees the same emotions reflected in the bridgeman as he felt. He's talking about how it's okay to care, and Moash and a couple others all seem bored. And he's like, and he like thinks back. He's like, yeah, I was confused. And what was it? Tux? One of those. I can't remember his name. Paladin
gave
really
him that
is a
talk the first time.
natural leader. I feel like he doubts himself very frequently, or at least he doesn't think of it that way. But he not only he does a great job teaching, right? He remembers how he was taught, and he does a great job teaching the other bridgemen. But then he also just he cares an awful lot about each of his men, which is, I mean, both a good thing, and you see it as you see the bad thing, right? How he gets so depressed every time one of them dies. He has a,
That's not a bad thing, right? That's the
it's
mark of a
not a
good
bad
leader.
thing, but you see the falling into the depths of despair and all of those things isn't super great for him. But Kaladin really is a very natural good leader, which that's one thing I really love about him. It's how he just is. Like in the flashbacks, in the flashbacks to his time in the army, we see that he also became squad leader very young and very quickly. So this is just kind of something that seems to have happened with him a lot.
Yeah. So it's interesting though to see the difference between his leadership style and Dalinar's, because Kaladin's all like, okay, my whole job is to protect these people that I lead, but Dalinar is all like, my job, listen, I've decided I'm doing this and I'm going to get it done. And it doesn't matter what stands in my way, I'm going to push through it. And he's just very much, I've decided I'm accomplishing a thing, I will get it done. And you can come along or not. You can either get behind me or get out of my way, because if you're in my way, I'm going to plow right through you. And it seems to me very well to contrast with the difference between like an NCO in the military, like a non-commissioned officer, like a sergeant, and an officer, because officers are in charge of getting the mission done, and sergeants are in charge of taking care of their men. Right? Am I right here, Fort, or am I way off?
Yeah, no, you're
You're a
right.
sergeant
Sergeants,
now.
yeah, sergeants are told that our priority as the enlisted is to take care of our people, to make sure they have food, they have water, they're taken care of. The officer's job is to let us know what the mission is and to make sure the mission gets accomplished. We need to make sure that our people are taken care of first.
Which, yeah, in case anybody was wondering, it's now Sergeant Fort. So he gets to supervise a bunch of 18-year-olds that have a car loan that's way too high of an interest rate, and a girlfriend who really is going to leave their job stripping for him, for them. No,
So far, I don't
I'm
have
kidding.
anyone like that yet, but I mean,
I'm just kidding. But for all you young servicemen out there, remember, it doesn't matter what the monthly payment is. You cannot afford that interest rate on a charger, and she doesn't actually love you. Okay, so. But
Not depressing at all. Thank you, Doug.
oh yeah, I'm the depressing one. After Kaladin's like, oh, Maps and Dunny died. There's no point in saving anybody. Everybody's going to die. Everybody's dying every time, and I can't do anything to save it. I'm the depressing one. So
those are some interesting words that Maps lets out, though, right as he dies. I had to like rewind it for a second. I'm like, wait, what?
oh yeah.
Re-listen to it. Yeah,
Are we in the spoiler
Well, and
section yet?
they're really similar to there's the little intros to each chapter, right?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And Maps was how many ever seconds pre-death? Like it
And I
makes
think CN also had one as well
Mhm.
from Cal's viewpoint.
oh,
Okay.
very possibly. So no spoilers, but like you can see the connections in there.
They're random things that people say when they die. It's nonsense.
Well,
Well,
and
According to
a couple weeks ago, there was in it again, and it was another bridgeman. It was another one of their bridgemen before they were really all. I think it was right toward the beginning when they were kind of becoming a group.
okay.
Was it Teft that was like, yeah, it's dying delirium. Sometimes they say that. They say
It was
things. So
I
this
think it
isn't,
was Moash. It was
was it
either Tef or
Moash?
Moash. One of the
This is
two.
not the first time we have seen it from a bridgeman, which shows that it's rare, it's fairly common.
Another interesting thing, though, is to correlate that, though, with the fact that Zeth and the Shin consider the dying words of a man sacred. In last words, so that's an interesting
Oh
connection.
yeah, he does say that in the prologue, doesn't he?
Now, here's another interesting thing. So, oh, never mind. It's not the one that Maps lets out, but there's one that happens. One of the death rattles, the epigraphs, says he must pick it up. The fallen title, the tower, the crown, and the spear. Do you know what the tower and the crown? Do you know which house has the tower and crown as their insignia?
Colin
Oh,
House.
that's Colin.
Yep. So
Very
that's an
cool.
interesting one to think about. So what does the spear mean? And yeah,
Um,
yeah.
trying to think. Oh, and that was the other thing. And as the Doug kind of pointed out and slightly spoiled, we have Hoyd's first story. So, we know he comes back with at least one more. But what do you guys think of the Wander Sail?
Boy, this is so great.
Or the
His
interesting person.
his storytelling is magical, right?
Yeah.
The way he plays the flute, and like he gets right back on as soon as it starts to go, and wow, that um that rock bud bark, it sure, it didn't, should it really have had that much smoke? Like, should he have been able to see those things in the smoke? It just doesn't seem like it should have let off enough.
Well,
Wait,
we're still in spoiler section, aren't we?
yep.
Spoiler free section. Okay.
Yes, whatever.
But yeah, no. One of the things I love is how Hoyd drops like, "Oh, I'm rather attached to my Stormlight," and Calvin's all like, "Wait, what?" It's like, "Yeah, because you're gonna steal my spheres." And he's like, and Calvin gives him he's like, "Wait a minute. Okay, yeah, of course that's what he meant. He doesn't know anything about the fact that I'm a Radiant, but like, does he? Does
Hoyd
Wow.
always seems to know, or I guess Wit, Kaladin needs him as Hoyd, but Wit always seems to know more than he needs to. And even Dalinar, when that very last time we see Wit at a feast, he's like, Sadeas is going to make an announcement of some sort tonight. Wit always knows more than he seems like he always knows more than he's supposed to. And we don't know how, but there is much more to Wit than we.
Give it a tish.
Yeah.
I love Wick. Yeah, that's
Oh,
another.
Wit.
Tell me when we get to the spoiler section because I have like 3 questions I need to ask.
I have lots of things I want to say.
Oh yeah, so he's Sigzil's master too. So that
Yeah.
happened.
tell that apprentice now, I graduate him.
Why didn't he tell me he was alive? He was probably scared that I was going to come free him or something.
So that's another question that I can't ask because it's related to the greater Cosmere spoilers. And
Well, is there anything else spoiler free that we want to touch on?
let's talk about. Yeah, no.
Oh, is there anything
Oh,
about Shalon we want to? Anything Shalon to discuss?
okay.
Not,
Not to be horrible, but we know
not
it's all
right now.
like the next section, and it's all like Kaladin, Dalinar, Adolin. I was all like, oh, there's no Shalon, and I can't bring myself to be sad about that because listen, Shalon's going through. Maybe it's something story that other people really get to, and I'm not going to knock it, but just for me, especially in the first book, my focus is mostly on Kaladin. Even Dalinar's a little bit like, okay, yeah, but let's focus on Kaladin because he's got all those dead bridgemen he needs to save. So
Kellen definitely has. He's definitely had the most, like, I feel like he's had the highest stakes, or at least the most imminent stakes, right? Dalinar is worried about the whole war. Shalon's worried about her family back at home, but Kaladin is like an emergency, like, my bridgeman might die tomorrow. Dalinar's not worried about the war ending tomorrow. Shalon's not worried about, her brothers needing the soul caster tomorrow. Like, both of them are like soon, they're imminent, but Kaladin's definitely the most urgent. Plus, he's the flashback character.
can we go to the spoiler
But yeah,
section yet?
yes, we can make it the spoiler section now.
Okay.
Yay.
Spoilers for
Okay.
Cosmere, Stormlight, and everything. Fair warning.
Okay.
What are you going to say, the Doug? Because I also have stuff.
First question. We know that Hoyt is a full Mistborn. Not only is he a full Mistborn, but he's a full Mistborn that has super Mistborn powers because he ate a bead of Lerasium.
Sure.
Did he? So he's an like ancient Mistborn power level. Is he able to detect different types of radiance based on using his
I don't think he's had
Yeah.
it for long enough to be able to do
He's
Well,
had it for hundreds of years.
that. I think if he was able to burn bronze, he could sense investiture, but not necessarily the different types of it, especially not different orders.
Well, we
well,
know
that's
he's
the
been
thing.
doing it for at least 5 or 6 years because he senses Shalon in Words of Radiance. Which
Yeah,
we'll
no,
get
so
to
he
that
can
later.
definitely, it would make sense if you're able to,
There haven't been
because
that many radiants though for him to be able to gauge like, oh, this is what a windrunner feels like. This is what this
but he
like.
also hasn't been on Roshar the whole time, right? He's been to other worlds where he's probably practiced using bronze to sense other types of investiture. Because,
Yeah,
like, we
so
know
he
burning different metals creates different thump thumps, right? With the bronze, like,
Mhm.
it would make sense that he would at least sense differences. Even if he couldn't tell the difference, he could go, okay, this person's investiture level is slightly different, or application is slightly different than this person's.
Here's another question. 2 questions actually. First off, can you detect hemalurgy using copper or using bronze?
No,
You can't? Are you sure?
pretty sure you can't just like you can't push on invested metal effectively. You can't sense inquisitors unless they're burning metal.
Well, yeah, no, I'm talking about
Can't sense their innate.
because they're using the metal, right? But so
Then
here's the
yes,
question: if
but
you
not innately. The innate things they get from hemalurgy, no, only if they're effectively using it.
so can you use brass to detect Spren? Is that how he knew? Was he able to detect Silfrena?
Bronze?
Yeah, bronze, not brass, bronze. I always get confused. So is that how he's able to detect? Because he also knows later in Words of Radiance that Kaladin's a Windrunner. When he's all like, I wouldn't want you flying off on me.
Um, I think if you focused, yes.
Well, and I think Hoyt has put a lot of thought into Roshar, right? I feel like he's the
That's
type
what
of person
Odin.
that would
Yeah.
study a little bit. I don't think he just came to Roshar and is like, I'm going to be the king's witness, going to be fun. I think he is aware of the types of investiture, the fact that there are the different orders of radiance. I feel like there has to be some of that going on, which would explain why he seems to know more. Would just be some previous study. Plus, he knew honor and cultivation in odium, right?
Yeah,
Like,
thinks Tadabast is a great guy. Bought him a drink once. So,
and for it, you said you had a spoiler question.
Not question, observation. So I think it's interesting that the first times we see the cryptics, the creatures behind people, are when she draws Taravangian and Capsule, the two people
Oh,
who align, one about
no!
who and what they are.
Oh my gosh. Because she
mind
doesn't.
book.
Mind blown.
That's what I thought too. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It
No.
makes so much sense. Brandon does not miss a trick.
That's just
Because we
except
know she's done so many portraits. Capsule's like, you've done all these other artists, but you haven't done me.
Mm,
I see in my head it was always because those are the ones where she's distracted as she's doing it. But yeah, your
there's
observation
also a
makes way
lot
more
of
sense.
cryptics surrounding them because she's alive.
Lies.
yeah.
Lies. Delicious lies. Oh man, that's crazy. So I haven't noticed wind anymore, except when. So remember last time we talked about wind. The only time I've remembered seeing wind so far since then that I can pick up is when Kaladin is using the spear or fighting. It'll talk about how sometimes he's like, "Oh, there's wind." And he's all like, he didn't remember wind being there before. So, but is anybody? So we know anytime Kaladin picks up the spear, basically the wind manifests, and he's all like, "Oh," he gets super wind powers.
But
Anybody
we
else?
also know that Windspren are connected with wind runners. So like
Well, yeah,
it
but
makes
like,
sense.
yes, but wind is also specifically the manifestation of honor.
Yes, I
So,
guess. Sure.
so what you got? Anybody else noticed anything yet?
Um, Nothing yet.
I kind of forgot to keep an eye out for it.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts?
I'm so excited for the next chapters. Then we can talk about them, and we can just sit here and go, "Oh my gosh!" Like for
Well,
the
we're
full
getting
full
really close to
podcast.
the end. Like, are we going to be
Is it?
done by the time we do our next podcast?
Pretty sure.
I think we're going to be finished
Are
with
we?
Way of Kings.
Yeah, because we
I'm gonna check.
specifically set the chapters so that we wouldn't end in the middle of a Sanderlanche. And I mean, pretty much just do for Sanderlanches from this point forward. And the best speech in the history of speeches. And all
Yeah.
sorts of other.
Because next week and then the week after. So yes, our next episode it will be through the epilogue of Way of Kings. Wow, we timed that perfectly. So yeah,
So,
this is
Yeah,
Here's
readers,
one
if you want to
question.
get ahead, then you can read all the way to the end of Wakings from where we're at now, and you'll be caught up.
So
By the
here's
time
a
this
question. Do you
episode gets
guys
out.
think Capsule actually cared about her, or did he just start talking about going with her because he was on assignment from the Ghost Bloods to follow her around?
Capsule's a huge
he
mystery to me. Like, how much did he know about Shallan and her family? How
like
did
we
he
know
get
he was there
introduced into
for
the identity?
Yasna, not for
Was
Shallan, right?
he?
That's what he
Was
says, but that's the thing. I think it'd be cool to get it as like a little novella. So like how we have Edge Dancer in between books 2 and 3, and then we have Dawntride between 3 and 4. I think it'd be cool to have a little novella of Capsule and like his viewpoint, what he was doing, and the sides in the novella of between books 1 and 2. Because
well,
he's
but
already dead, his story's already wrapped up, so we can use him without spoiling too much.
we can't though because
Right.
he's also tied in with the Ghost Bloods. And here's the
And you don't
thing.
have to name drop too much. You just have to get a little bit. Just say,
But
oh,
here's
he's
the
on
thing.
assignment for these people.
We know that there's the Ghost Bloods. Like we think we've got the Ghost Bloods figured out, but we haven't because we know that the Ghost Bloods whole thing was like, okay, it's actually Thydakar, and they were working with Gavilar. But the Ghost Bloods have also been interested in the Devar household, and we don't know why. And they were interested in the Devar household for quite a while, enough to be all like, here's a soul caster, literally the most powerful artifact in Roshar. I'm going to give it to you. And does that extend all the way back because they were associating with her mother or something with that? Were they watching them all the way back then? And her son, Helleran, got all caught up as a Skybreaker. Her brother, I mean, like, the Ghost Bloods, we still don't know as much as we think we do.
No, we don't. That's the biggest thing. It's just
Yeah,
Ghost
there's
Bloods are a
always
giant
another
mystery.
secret.
Exactly.
What do you
Any
think,
other
Glorf?
thoughts for book club?
No, I think we got it all out.
Okay.
Yeah. For all you first time listeners, this is now the point where this is the point this next couple of by the time we get to the next part, it's the point that converts everybody from okay, I guess the book's all right. Yeah, I'm interested in what happens to oh my gosh, Brandon Sanderson's the best. So
If we have not converted you by our next podcast, I don't know if we're going to be able to.
okay.
Actually, that's not true. We'll have begun the converting process, at least.
Sweet. Well, ending book club. We're book ending it.
Okay. Okay. The Doug is way too proud of that.
I am.
Oh,
And now I think we wanted to, so our extra activity today that we wanted to go through is we have in the past discussed our radiant orders, and I know the Doug and I have gone through family members and identified what different family members we've decided my mother would be an edge dancer. But what if today we're going to think about other book characters or movie characters? If we looked completely outside of Brandon Sanderson, what radiant order would they be?
things
So
like Marvel or Justice League or just
yeah.
any other characters.
Let's start with the easiest one, Captain America.
Windrunner.
What? I don't know that I'd say that.
Really?
Windrunner or
I would
Skybreaker?
think Windrunner, hands down.
Definitely not a Skybreaker. He's not a Skybreaker kind of
Okay.
guy.
I honestly, so I've watched Civil War a lot, but I still don't get it. So I don't know who's on which side. Because one of them's a Skybreaker and the other's a Windrunner. One of them wants to do what's right, and the other's like, I want to follow the law and be in check.
No, see, that's the thing. Captain America wants to do what's right. Tony Stark is feeling guilty, so he wants the Accords.
Yeah.
So
Tony Stark
I'd
is not a
say-
Skybreaker by any measure, but I don't think Steve is either.
I think Captain America, if we're talking like, and so, caveat here, we're talking about the MCU. So,
Yes.
but I'd say he's a bondsmith. That's what his thing has always been about, bringing people together.
No,
I
the
feel like
first
his thing
movie,
has been much more
first
about
movie is
protecting.
like, let's kill Hitler. And then it's like, well, let's actually find Hydra because he's the one behind everything and kill him to protect everyone. The
So-
first movie, he was all alone. Like,
Right,
he's
but
alone
if
a
we think
lot.
about his role in the Avengers, he was always like the guy that brought everybody together, that kept
That's
things
Nick
cool.
Fury.
Okay. Here's what I don't think he's a Windrunner. I think he is a Stonehorse.
Okay, I could see Stoneward. I don't think he's a bondsmith. The
Yeah.
reason I'm so insistent on the Windrunner thing is going back to Civil War. The reason he doesn't want the Accords is because his whole thing is protecting people, and he feels the Accords are going to limit him and the Avengers' ability to protect people.
Right, but we're operating within certain boundaries, right? Everybody wants to protect people, but is that the defining feature? Like, all the Radiants are devoted to the ideas of selflessness and doing what is right? You can't be a selfish and a Radiant. But what's the defining feature of each of them, right?
So what's the defining feature of the Stonewards? What's their little thing again?
Defense.
There's his defense.
Yes,
Ish.
stubbornness.
Stubbornness is Tony.
No.
I don't know that Tony would be a Radiant.
Okay, if we're talking about Iron Man, I've thought about this. I think he is a Dustbringer.
Because he shoots lasers or what?
Well, okay, here's the thing: is that
Because I
he's
feel like he'd
super
be an
kind
Alice
of-
Column.
No, he's super interested in science and technology and engineering and whatnot and how things work, which is a cat feature of the Dustbringers. He doesn't like, he's kind of a wild card that kind of operates loosey goosey with the royals and is like, I do what I want and I'm in it for me and I'm not gonna. And right, that's his whole defining feature in the first Marvel movie, or first Avengers movie, is like, I play by my own rules. Nobody tells me what to do. And he's kind of reckless, right? That's one of his things, is that he starts out pretty reckless and whatnot. And so for me, it seems to me pretty easy. Iron Man, Tony Stark is a Dustbringer.
Really? Because I just recently listened to the Else Caller video that they put out, like they've been doing. And the Else Callers are trying to achieve their full potential, and that's exactly what Tony Stark is doing. He's trying to achieve his potential into the cave to survive. Then he progresses his technology even more to reach his full potential, and he just keeps getting better and better as a person, as
But no, multiple times he
engineer and
keeps
everything else.
pushing everything off. Like at the end of Iron Man 3, he's all like, I'm destroying all the Iron Man suits. Now, we won't deal
Yeah.
with the continuity
To try
errors
and
that
reach his
totally
own.
brings up. But no,
To
he's
try and
always
reach,
been
like,
about like.
I don't think he's destruction on it. Like, I
Well,
don't
and
see him as a
Dustbringers-
Dustbringer.
Dustbringers aren't just destruction. They're also picking things apart and seeing how things work. Right? That was a big part of the Dustbringer video. And that's, you see that in Tony. He's the inventiveness in him.
Like, I mean, if we sidebar for a minute, there's three orders that like they kind of seem the same on the surface: Dustbringers, Else Callers, and Truth Watchers, right? And so, in my mind, though, Dustbringers are all about the mechanics and making things. They're engineers. They take principles and whatnot and they make things. Else Caller or Truth Watchers, they're more like scientists. They're like, we want to figure out why it works, what's going on. They want to really find out and think and figure out this is how things work, right? They're the guys who will sit around and be all like, think about the nature of light and whatnot, to be all like, okay, this is how light really works. Because they're not so much interested in what can I do with that. They're much interested in what is the fundamental nature of how things work. And finally, the Else Callers, they're just all pure logic. If Dustbringers are engineers and Truth Watchers are scientists, they're more of the philosophy type. That they're like, okay, we're dealing in an abstract world, and like, what is, philosophically speaking, how, and very much a logically driven reason type thing that may or may not be in concordance with like how the real world works. At least that's been my perspective based on what I'm trying to draw those lines between them. Because that's the thing is that if you zoom too far out, a lot of the radiants start to look very similar. But if you have to pick those hairs apart, but what do you guys think? Do you think I'm off on that?
No, I
I don't
agree.
think you're too far off. And I think a lot of it is we just don't know enough about the orders. Like those orders specifically, we don't know enough about them. We have Yesna as un-Elts color that we've had a few viewpoints from, but we don't know any of their oaths or anything. We've
Well, as
seen
far as we know, she's the
Dustbringer
only one.
twice. Exactly. And we don't have any stone wards that we've seen except for Tal Nali Lin. Or no, there was one that they took to rhythm into lasting integrity, but all we know is the name. We don't know enough.
Well, I mean, okay, actually, here's another question. Would Captain America be an edge dancer? Because his
I
whole thing
looked
is
up.
being humanistic. He constantly is remembering those who have been forgotten. Like his whole thing is remembering Bucky. He constantly is standing up for the little guy in the face of big guys.
I guess while we were discussing, I looked up the little theme, right? Windrunners, I will protect. Stone Wards is I will be there when I am needed, which makes me think that Captain America is probably a Stone Ward. I think I agree with that first assessment of yours, Doug.
Okay, so here's a question. What would Doug's on the wind pleasure be? I'm kidding, because they're all Doug.
Yeah.
Except one Doug who's actually named Doug. Okay.
All right, so
Batman, Skybreaker.
yes,
Yep. We're all in agreement on that.
Samwise Gamgee.
Edge dancer.
I think
Or
really
That's what I was thinking.
edge dancer. Sam is an edge dancer. Why?
what do you think though, Fort? What are you gonna say? Because I could
Well,
be
going off the
persuaded.
theme of I will be there when I'm needed, I was thinking Stoneward because he is there for Frodo. He is the one who brings Frodo up the cliff. He's not going to remember Legolas. He's not going to remember everyone in the Shire, but he will be there for Frodo when he's needed. That man almost drowned for Frodo at the end of the movie because Frodo needs him.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yep.
I could, yeah, because you're right. He's not much of an edge dancer. I just assume, he likes food. Lift likes food. All edge dancers must like food.
Maybe in
See,
people
I
like
was
food.
thinking about like Samwise is Sam is very caring, right? And that's part of what we think of with the edge dancers, the regrowth, the healing. But you're right. I think that we're going Stone Ward again.
Because yeah, one of their defining features is stubbornness, and being bullheaded. And
I'm going alone. Yes, you are, and I'm coming with you.
Yeah. Okay. So can we both all agree though that Gandalf definitely is a bondsmith?
Yes.
That's his whole thing.
Yeah.
Is he doesn't get involved a whole lot. His whole thing is organizing other people together.
Yeah, I see that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're going off a little bit, here's one. What about Gimli?
I do not think we have enough perspective, and here's why. Because here's the problem: is that different types of writing are trying to accomplish different things. Part of the difference between Tolkien and Sanderson is that Tolkien was less about trying to flesh out characters and more of to describe his world. His focus was on the setting. Gimli and Legolas don't
Legolas.
exist to be characters. They exist to be archetypes of these are what this is kind of people are like in my world. Each of the different people for the most part exist to be that type, to demonstrate that type of person in the world, to the point that most people can't tell Merry and Pippin apart because they exist mostly to be hobbits.
That's fair.
So I think you'd have a hard time classifying anybody except maybe Aragorn. You could Aragorn, Eowyn, Sam, and you classify those.
Would Eowyn be a Windrunner?
Eowyn is a will shaper.
Oh, see, I was about to say that Windrunner or Will Shaper.
Why is that?
Because her whole thing is, I want to be free. I don't want to be put in a cage. I need to see the world. Her biggest fear is being trapped in a cage and growing old and alone. Not a physical cage, but a cage of societal expectations.
Okay. I've read the books. It's been a while, and B, when I read it, it was very
yeah.
confusing, and so okay.
It's probably been 4 years since I read it, so a lot of what I'm thinking of is based off the movies. I
Okay.
feel like I've seen those more recently than I read the books.
That makes sense. I could see Will Shaper.
What about Sherlock?
Truth Watcher.
The
Else Caller.
I'm kind of thinking Elsecaller, since he's not
Maybe
interested
else.
in science or truth for its own sake.
He also doesn't
doesn't.
listen to anyone else, so
Yeah.
he's not an edged answer. He doesn't
But
care
are
about.
we based? So are we saying Sherlock is an else color, or are we saying that Sherlock is Yasna?
A little of both.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Sí, señor.
See, that's yeah. I mean,
That is the tricky
he,
thing with else colors. Is our only one we have is Yasna. So how much of Yasna is an else color, or do we just base what we know of else colors off of Yasna?
but we also know that their whole thing is logic and reason
It's
and
potential.
potential. I guess yeah, that's another one that I need less of. But
Well, that's specifically what the video was saying, and everything is I will reach my potential.
I guess I haven't seen the Elsecaller yet video. I know, mea culpa. So okay. What
Do we have
did you
any
guys
other
have any other
characters?
characters you wanted to bring up?
I'm trying to think. Right now, I'm reading Harry Potter with my oldest kid, but can we even like would we even put Harry in a radiant order?
No comment.
The
I
Doug
mean,
doesn't like Harry Potter very much.
and I guess it's not that I don't like it. It's just it was a good
My
book.
opinion of
I
it
was
has decreased since reading Brandon Sanderson.
yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, if we're talking about Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling wrote a great story. She did a good job. She hooked a lot of people on reading. My issue is that the first three books are clearly targeted as kids books, and then you get to book four, and it's all like, okay, we're seeing a series tonal shift, but we can't reconcile that with the way everything was working in the first three books, and it kind of leads to jarring plot holes. And for me, one of the most important things is a consistent, logical, reasonable narrative that you can say, okay, these rules work in the universe, and they work like this, and then extrapolating from that. That's one of the reasons I love Brandon Sanderson. Is all of his stuff is so logical and well put together that you can then predict on this will mean this, and then you can ask ridiculous questions like, okay, so if I can manipulate light as a light weaver, does that mean I can shoot gamma rays and give people cancer out of my hands? And the answer is, well, yes, you can. But you need a lot of stormlight because it has to be super powerful.
Well, and yeah, no, the fact that Sanderson's investiture magic can literally be measured in BEUs. Like he creates in Sunlit Man, he creates a measurement that is it's across all investiture, like all worlds, how to measure investiture.
So,
I bet you the team had a great time figuring all that out.
Yeah.
oh, that was another question. Yeah, that's for another time though. But no, I'm surprised it became breath equivalent units. I'll be honest. I thought that for me, it made more sense to use stormlight chips as the universal medium of measurement
Because
because you already
every
have
breath is
pre-built
a
units.
very exact amount, but like you have a diamond chip, you had a fire chip. There are different types of chips, and just making it all down to the most common denominator of a diamond chip, you would just have so much in one emerald brome that it would sound ridiculous. But breath, if you have one breath, you have one breath, you know,
Well,
breath,
yeah, but
That
on
makes
the
sense.
flip side, like, I mean, Stormlight's a lot easier to carry around than Breath and
no,
whatnot. Yeah, it is. Breath
I,
only exists in one place in the Cosmere and has to be exported out of there.
it's
Meanwhile, you can
easy
take a
though.
Stormlight, I guess, yeah.
Hoyt has probably more breath than he does Stormlight at any given time.
Well, that's the other question. Can you convert Stormlight to Breath 1-to-1? And is that why Zyle showed up on Roshar?
It depends on
You
what you
can
mean
start.
1-to-1. I think one emerald brone might be worth one breath, but I wouldn't
You
say
think a
that.
Breath is entire Brome?
I don't know. Just depends.
I don't know about
I
that.
don't know. I don't think we know enough about how much a breath is.
Yeah, but huh.
Back on track. Any last
So
characters we want to identify, or we want to categorize, or are we ready for a meme off?
Darth Vader.
Ooh. Ooh, okay. Darth
The answer
Vader.
is none of them because there's no radiant orders that the oath is. I will slaughter children because I had a vision of my wife dying.
Skybreaker.
Let's be
He
honest.
is not.
He
For the
100% would have
Empire.
given up to Odium. Dude would have 100% given up to Odium. His whole thing is,
Skybreaker.
I see a future because I see something in the future that may or may not happen, which first off forbidden, and then I immediately decide to act on that by slaughtering a bunch of children.
Will Shaper. It could either be Will Shaper or Skybreaker. One Will Shaper because he doesn't want to be kept in the cage in the dark of what the Jedi are doing to him and everyone else. Skybreaker because when he's Darth Vader, he wants to kill all the rebels for disobeying the Empire.
I thought he more just wanted to kill the rebels because that's kind of his thing. He wanted to be an emperor.
They're terrorists. He's going
He's
to
just
protect
generic.
his
I feel like
empire.
Okay. Let's move on to
not
somebody less
everybody is a
controversial.
radiant.
Yeah, that's probably the best answer. The answer is he's the guy that gets kicked out of the Radiance for being all like, okay, you did what? To who?
Nell's still a Radiant.
Yeah, he's also a
Yeah,
herald.
well,
He gets
Nail's
kind of,
friend must be very patient with him.
I mean, and Nail at least has a code and a reason he was doing everything he was doing. Darth Vader's whole thing is, I'd like genocide. So,
Uh,
I mean, we could probably, yeah, Star Wars may not be a good universe to go off of. Okay, meme off.
Mima. The Doug, you should go first this time, I think.
Okay, the
So our
Doug.
theme is mental health in the Cosmere.
Yes. So where's the share screen button? Okay. So this one's kind of a custom one, but it's a Google search result for things to do after a breakup. And then it has the entire list that Google has scratched out. And on the side, instead, it says, murder the competition. Come back from the dead and try to overthrow God. Join a murderous band of pirates to kill a witch, from Trust in the Emerald Sea. Hit on his brother. Navani took that one to heart. And ascend to godhood. That's what Seiza did to get over a girl. So, that's a great thing. Those are all great things to do in the Cosmere if you're upset about, your relationship not working out.
Wait, who comes back from the dead to try to overthrow a god?
Lessie.
Oh, that's me.
Lessie. And murder
Yeah.
the competition, I'm guessing, is Vin.
Yeah. Because, oh, Ellen broke up with me. You know what I'll do? Kill his fiance and everyone she knows. And then later, after we get married, I'm going to celebrate by offing his dad. So, I don't know why, but for me, that's always just hilarious. She's a homicidal hat trick.
I like it.
That's a good one.
All right. Fort, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I will go next. So mine is this water tank spilling out water, and it says mental health issues. The guy slaps some tape on it, and it's a Nahel bond.
I like it.
Not be fixed, but it looks like it.
That's exactly how it works. All right. And I will finish with mine. Hold on, I just gotta pull it up. So I actually made this one ages ago just for fun. Okay, so it's the Asian, it's Stephen He. And it's like, hey, that's a cool sprint. How do I get me one of those little sidekicks? And it's Stephen He going, emotional damage.
I love that. That's
That
funny.
one's good. Awesome.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us.
Yeah, we had a great time. Leave comments down there. Let us know what you think of everything and what
And who
order
had the best meme?
you had.
Yep.
Always. You want to put that in a poll or something? Somehow one of these days.
This is Glorf signing off with have a great time finishing up the Way of Kings.
This is Fort saying, remember to have a life outside of Sanderson.
And this is the Doug saying, life before death, journey before destination.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.